And here he is. Here my biggest hero is in front of me. Jan Frode Nilsen, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
You know what they say, Jan? You know what they say? They say not all heroes wear capes, and you are one of my heroes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
It's okay. And I wish I could be with you and give you a big hug to celebrate that giant leap from yesterday. But instead, I just had to buy a bottle of champagne.
Okay. So tease me with it.
Because it's so huge what happened in Norway. And I just have to not get drunk. Don't worry, but just to celebrate and drink just one glass, and then I can finish the bottle afterwards with my girlfriend. But tell me a little bit, Jan. We spoke in Danish, Norwegian about a year ago.
It's been almost a year.
Almost a year.
Yeah.
But it's not only. Oh, didn't just. Oh my gosh. All over. No, nothing happened with the equipment. So it's good. Skål, Jan, skål.
Thank you. I've got a beer, actually, a Norwegian beer. It's not champagne, but it's okay. Skål.
Skål. No, there's a lot of things to celebrate. But before we start, I respect that everybody wants to talk with you in this moment, all journalists, and you are a very busy man. So I promised you only 30 minutes it will take, this interview. A lot of it. And here I have this.
Okay.
We call it in Danish, æggeur, egg clock. Do you say that in Norwegian too?
You could say that, yes. You could say æggeklokke. Well, it's not a word I use every day, but you could say it.
Æggeklokke in 30 minutes. Okay. So we have to respect that you're a very busy man. All journalists are also called...
It's not that I'm busy, but I'm a single dad for 3 children, and I'm also trying to not let this affect them too much. If I said yes to everyone, then they wouldn't see their dads much. And I have a full-time job, and it's also draining. It's not like I don't... Some people might think that I kind of build myself up with this, but it's the opposite. I always drain myself a little. A little piece of me die every time I have to go full into this, and then I have to recover. And
and it is very, very important to do that, Jan. I know from myself doing this podcast, at least I can take a break sometimes when I've too much of Jehovah in my life and I want to live a normal life at the side. But for you, you couldn't take a break in the middle of all this trial thing. You needed to be alert all the time. And do you have just a little bit, do you have some kind of knowledge about how many hours have you spent on this trial the last 3 years?
It's impossible to say, but it's more than 3 years. There's an unbroken line from 2019 when I I came out of the closet, when I blew my fade on this case in 2019 in the voting issue. I have been anonymous until then. And then it started with this whole case started back then. And that's when Watchtower wrote a letter and saying that normal family relations continue. They don't get affected by disfellowshipping at all. And that's when after 2, 3, 4 years of fading and being anonymous in several articles, I dropped my anonymity, and then I was on the front page on Vårt Land about with my name and picture and everything. And this same case has been going on since then, unbroken. So it's not 3 years. It's
5 years.
It's almost 5 years. 5 years, and it has been kind of nonstop. But at the same time, it's a slow process. You have to be very patient when you deal with stuff like this. It's not so you have this letter and you have these decisions, and then they are appealed, and then 5-6 months go by, and then you get another one. And last year it was the injunction case when I was testifying the first time. That was, when was that? Was it January, February? No, it was March last year. And then they appealed that, and that was the first time I was testifying in court in Oslo. So, and then it's been a year since that, and yeah, it'll probably be. I guess it will be maybe three. If this goes all the way to Strasbourg, then maybe 2026 we can say this is done.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Do you think that the Watchtower will appeal this and go all the way to the human rights Strasbourg?
Yes. That's what they do. That's how they roll. They will never back down. So I'm pretty sure this will end up in Strasbourg in three years, maybe.
They have 30 days to appeal Watchtower. They have 30 days. But
but we expect it to be appealed because they will never back down. But the verdict is very strong and very clear. I don't really see what the grounds for appeal can be, but so in a normal case, it could stop here, that the appeal is just rejected, because if a appeal court, they first consider the appeal, and if they feel that there's no point running another case, then they can reject an appeal without doing a full case. But I'm pretty sure that it will be accepted, because this is the first test on the new law in Norway. So it's a principal case. And because of that, then I'm expecting it to go to the Supreme Court. Not because Jehovah's Witnesses have a valid appeal ground, but because it's an important case for how this law will be used in all other cases and in the future. So I don't think any of the parties want this to stop before Supreme Court.
No, interesting point, because as we have heard from Norway, there are about 700 denominations who are approved religions. Do you think the other religious groups are now shaking in their pants because of this verdict?
Of course, we have some really conservative religious known people, especially one in Norway called Vebjørn Selbekk. He's fighting this really hard, and he's Jehovah's Witnesses' best friend, because this law was never meant to just be about Jehovah's Witnesses, of course. If it is established that there are demands about human rights, about how you treat children, about the right to leave, about the right to be an apostate or to change religion without punishment, that can also affect lots of others' religions. So I often get, in all those years, I've often been attacked by people who say, why do you care about Jehovah's Witnesses? The Muslims are far worse, and stuff like that. But the thing is that if we win this case, then we have established a possibility to make some checks and balances that can be used on all kinds of groups that have a undue pressure against children or against those who wants to leave. So instead of attacking us, they should support us, because we're not fighting just for ourselves. We're fighting for all kinds of broken people out there. Yeah. So it's a bit, but yeah, the real conservative religious people like Selbekk, he's fighting this, and they are terrified of getting demands on religion. But mostly it's the old, can I say old, the kind of the last generation, those up in the years men that don't want change. It's been the same. It's been the same when women want to be priests, and when the LGBT community and people, they fought for their rights. It's always been the conservative forces fighting against it. So we meet the same thing here, and I've been quoted in articles in far right web pages that goes against us because we are fighting. They feel that we are fighting a conservative white European religion instead of going up against like immigrants and stuff. So it's kind of hard.
It
You
must
don't
be.
get, you can't do this if you want to be friends with everybody. But yeah, of course, this trial is a test, and that's also why we get so much publicity, because it's not just about Jehovah's Witnesses, it's about what kind of society Norway wants to be. Do we want to be a conservative society that gives religion freedom to do whatever they want because they are a religion? Or are we a secular society that puts the individual's human rights above an organization or a business? Lots of religions are international businesses. So for me, it's just the idea that an international multi-billion business should have their rights above my personal human rights is it's there's no logic in it.
It's an
And
ugly thought.
the only reason that's even considered is because you put the word religion beside it. If it hasn't been religion, then we wouldn't discuss it at all. It would have been a clear case.
No.
But yeah.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it is a multi-billionaire corporation, the Watchtower. Were you not at least a little bit afraid when they hired this so-called worldly lawyer, Anders Rysdal? He's very expensive. Was it about 6,000 kroner per hour?
Yeah, plus
the
taxes.
Expense?
So it's $550 per hour plus taxes. So they don't pay taxes, but if they did, it would. If a normal person would hire him, it would be like $800 for every hour, and he was just one. They had three of them.
Yeah, that were free. It's true. Yeah.
From that worldly company, and then they had one Jehovah's Witness lawyers, René Stubb Christiansen, and then you had the three people from the European Association of Jehovah's Witnesses, and you had the board members from the Norwegian Watchtower. So the bench was like 8-9 people.
And I was thinking also, Jan, it's thinking as a Jehovah's Witnesses, what we were taught when we were inside. It's so they're hypocrites. I mean, they shouldn't be a part of the world, but still they can use the worldly lawyers, and they can use the money you get as a Jehovah's Witnesses organization, 16 million Norwegian krona every year. They can use the money, and I think they're such hypocrites. They're telling the normal members, do not be a part of the world. But in this case,
and also, and just to illustrate it, they spent just in this now, they paid 4.5 million crowns for their own expenses, and then they had to pay the state's expenses. So in total, that's 6 million Norwegian crowns. That you can say $600,000. And that's like, here in Norway, that's like 2 kingdom halls. So I know you have this congregation next to where I grew up. They sold their kingdom hall a few years ago, and now they have to drive like 50 kilometers, 25 each way, twice a week to share the neighbor's hall. And they paid for that hall, and they built it up, and they put down all the debt, and now they have to sell it, and the Watchtower took it. And you have to do that twice just to cover this one court case. And they go into me and say, we do it because of the poor people in Africa. But 2 kingdom halls they had to sell just to pay for this.
But do you think, have you heard anything about that the Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway? Because there's been so much media about this in the newspapers and the television, and now this court case. Do you think they are aware of and thinking like that? Is that what all our contributions are being used for?
No, I don't talk to any Jehovah's Witnesses anymore.
No.
So I can't really say what they are thinking, but there were lots of Jehovah's Witnesses in the courtroom, and so I'm pretty sure they are fully aware. And of course, it was on the broadcast with the governing body with Anthony Morris, and so Norway has become kind of a celebrity nation worldwide because of us. So they are aware. Of course, they are aware, and I'm pretty sure they are reading the stories, because Jehovah's Witnesses are also quoted and come with their expression, so they are fully aware. But
yeah,
my impression,
you had sorry.
No.
Okay.
From what I know, I know several Jehovah's Witnesses support us because we are fighting against the shunning. And mostly when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I always remember when we felt safe and could talk freely, nobody really supports the shunning. We don't want it.
No.
So, and if they are ever to change, they need people like us fighting from the outside, because you can't fight it while being in Jehovah's Witnesses. You would just be disfellowshipped.
Yeah.
So if anyone are to pressure to do something about it, it's people like us. So we are fighting for them too. And I think they know. I think they know that.
Of course, they do know it, but they're playing the victim card. We're talking about Ben Elder later on. But I was thinking about that with the witnesses. I read a funny comment from you in one of the Norwegian XW groups that you said it was very interesting because the Watchtower had their 7 witnesses, current Jehovah's Witnesses, and you had your 7 ex-Jehovah's Witnesses all the time. But you said actually they supported your case, the Watchtower Witnesses, because they said actually directly, yes, we follow, we will shun our children, we will do that. And
the interesting thing is that in the verdict, if you have the verdict on page 14, the judge, when he talks about shunning and how the witnesses confirmed shunned him, he puts both sides witnesses together and say they basically said the same thing. Because he writes, during the main proceedings, testimonies were given from 24 current and former members of Jehovah's Witnesses. He put us together. It gave a clear picture, both of us together. It gave a clear picture that the guidelines on avoiding contact with former members are well known in the congregations, that they are interpreted literally, and that they are loyally followed up in practice with few exceptions and variations. So we said the same thing. Actually, us exes, we could have let Jehovah's Witnesses do all the testimonials, and the verdict would have been the same. And that's really
and it was contradicting what Anders Rysdal, the Watchtower, he said it's up to the individual.
It was really confusing because in the procedures when they talked about it, I was like this, what are they saying now? What's the plan? Because then they denied everything and told it there's no, he actually said there were no instructions and no procedures and no culture at all for shunning. And then they send in 12 witnesses confirming shunning. And that's pretty interesting because Watchtower leaders, they are so used to watering down the truth and actually blatant lying. But if you put a normal, faithful Jehovah's Witness on the stand, they don't lie.
No.
You can't tell them to lie because they have a conscience still. They haven't ruined their conscience yet, as the top leaders have. And it's, yeah, I just had to laugh when I read the verdict and I saw that. So in the verdict, on the pages about the different witnesses, their names are to be redacted. But then he puts both Jehovah's Witnesses and ex-Jehovah's Witnesses side by side, and they basically say the same.
And that's so important. But still, you say that they're not supposed to lie and so on. But still, you know the term theocratical warfare.
Yeah, but normal Jehovah's Witnesses don't really.
No, they don't. But there was a point. It was not one of the days where I was there, but when they brought in the Watchtower Witnesses, it was like they were instructed. It was like
yes,
that.
Of course.
Every question they had, I can read that in the Bible. I found out myself. I am not influenced by the Watchtower articles. And that's a direct lie, in my opinion.
What was interesting, because I don't know if you noticed it, but on the last day you were there when they were talking about expenses, they had to put forward the expenses. Then Rysdal told that René Stubb Christiansen, the Watchtower, the Jehovah's Witness lawyer who was in there with dark hair and glass, I'm not sure if you noticed him, but he never said anything in court. But when they brought out the costs, then he told us that he told the court that René Stubb Christiansen had done all the witness preparing. So that was his job. So in court, they only used worldly lawyers for talking, but when the Jehovah's Witnesses were to be prepared, then they met the Jehovah's Witness. So they wouldn't outsource the witness preparation to a worldly person. And that was pretty interesting. That says a lot about them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you go to this is one of the things I find really fascinating. On page 13, it's just he just quotes the shunning video that they showed, and that's, for me, that was maybe the highlight of the entire case, that in a courtroom, in a room court of law, Watchtower material was shown to the court as it is, unredacted, just an entire video to the court, while like Ben Elders and the Watchtower representing, they were sitting there watching their own material and just feeling the case just slip away from them because of their own material. And in the verdict, it is clear. He quotes the Loyally Support Jehovah's Decisions video. And he also say that she is told by her parents that she must move out of the home and that she has a negative influence on her younger siblings. The parents refuse to answer her phone calls. And the film ends with her rejoining Jehovah's Witnesses and having contact with her parents after being excluded for 15 years. And that's the judge quoting this video. And they can't say that this is something we made up or taken out of context. The court watched the entire video.
I think it's the first time in history that actually a court can see.
And that's everybody needs. This is what we need to do, because everyone has seen the clip from Canada when the lawyer says that normal family relations continue. They should have shown this video, their own material. There's no point arguing. Just show what they say and show what they do, and then the case can be done.
But I think Jan, that in other countries, also in Canada, the Watchtower were lucky enough to persuade the judge, please do not show any of our material. It's not none of your concern or whatever. And they tried that in Norway also. In the first day, Anders Rystel asked not to use their own material.
Yeah, through the entire case. So we didn't know until the verdict came if it was approved, but Watchtower demanded that all references to Jehovah's Witnesses literature were to be looked away from, because the court isn't allowed to interpret holy texts.
Yeah, it's true, holy text.
So this comes in page 14 in the verdict. I'll talk about a bit to the verdict, because viewers later, when they viewed it, we will spread the verdict so that everyone can have it. But in page 4, he's talking about this, and he say that the court agrees with the state on this, and it says that a contrary conclusion would easily make it unreasonable difficult to assess whether the religious community violates the rights and freedoms of others. Of course, if you can't look at the evidence, then you will never be able to find the evidence. And he also said that the evidence also otherwise confirms that the state has assumed a correct understanding of the exclusion practice. And then it goes to witnesses. So even without the material, it was clear through the witnesses. So there's really no doubt.
There is, and I respect that judge so much. Of course, he has also secretaries, because it was so many pages he had to go through. I read one place 4,500 pages he had to go through. The last 6 weeks he used to make his verdict.
No, it wasn't. It was 4,000 pages of written statement and then 9,000 pages, I think, of references. Wow. So yeah, it's in one of the pages. I don't remember where I saw it, but it's in there.
It's incredible.
I think it's in the end somewhere. But yeah, it's been massive. And that's kind of typical Watchtower too, to just drown the judge, because then they can make lots of bold claims referring to cases, and then they bury the case. So it's hard to find out, those 3 dots that Watchtower always uses when they quote stuff in the literature. If you just do that here too and then bury it in a wall of pages, then it's hard to find out how they are doing this. But yeah,
it's incredible. And
it's
another thing that struck me were also that, and that was something we talked about in Danish a year ago. We had a good laugh about that. You said directly, the Watchtower is actually very stupid. They put it for everybody can go to the jw.org. It's not hidden anywhere. You can see the videos. You can see what they're writing in the Watchtower. They are actually stupid. I think maybe in the future they will try to lock it down. You need a code to enter because I don't want to.
Well, they just need to learn that once you put thing out there, it's there, and you can't just pretend it's not there, because this is how internet works and social media works, and you can't just if you have a yeah, you can't just pretend that it didn't happen or it isn't there, because people can see with their own eyes, and we can easily quote. And even in lots of when I write, I've had lots of essays published in different newspapers through these years, and it's one thing when it is on paper, then you just have to say they say this and this, but whenever a written essay is published online, you can hot link. So when you say something, you can hot link so that the reader can press and then go directly into Jehovah's Witnesses page and read what you're writing about, or watch the video you're talking about. And this makes it so easy to prove that it's not. And then they can find the context, and they say, oh, you take it out of context, but you can check for yourself.
Yeah, it's so obvious.
Will never do that. You never see Watchtower do that in articles. They don't hot link in their sources. They could have done it, but they don't.
But it's good for us. It's good for the apostates using that in a court case. Oh, I'm looking at the Eck-klokke. We need to speed up a little bit.
It's okay with some extra. My kids are probably playing Roblox and whatever.
Okay, it's good.
So it's okay.
It's up to you totally. I could speak with you for hours, so you just need to
I can speak. But it's okay. We can go on.
Okay, thank you. I was there the last 3 days and listening to this procedure, first from Anders Rysdal, the Watchtower, and then from the state. And one of my highlights were, as you mentioned before, Ben Elder from the Freedom of Worship entity of Jehovah's Witnesses.
I was watching.
He was around he was a typical smooth Jehovah's Witnesses, a smooth criminal, a good salesman, but he didn't say anything that surprised me. It was the victim card again. During World War II, and we were persecuted, and we are still persecuted. And they're trying to turn it as a persecution. No. This is not because the Norwegian state wants to forbid Jehovah's Witnesses. They just want to take the charity away from them. They can freely continue, and the judge said that several times, and still he used that, no, we are being persecuted. This is like, you're persecuting us.
Did you notice that he quoted from my Twitter feed? They always watch my social media.
No.
So this time again, in the injunction case, the last trial that was last year, then when Anders Rysdal were cross-examining me, he was reading from my tweet feed, and he misquoted on purpose, because I had tweeted that the day before when I went in, I tweeted that I was looking forward to meet Watchtower on even terms in the court case. And I posted a picture of the train, and I got lots of support. They always watch whatever I write. And in court, he read it up, but he misquoted it. He said that I had written that I would finally get even with Watchtower. That's a totally different thing, totally different meaning. But that's what he do, is just trying to get me out and misquote me in front of the judge, to point me as an activist just trying to get even. But of course, I remembered exactly what I had written, and I told them, and then it backed off. But Ben Elder, he was talking in. If you listen to it again, he said that even one of the activists who were here, one of the activists who even was here today in this courtroom, and not today, but in this courtroom, in his feed, and then he didn't read something I had written, but he read that one from one of the answers in, when you tweet something and then people can subtweet an answer, and of course that's how internet works. I have no control of. I can get hundreds of answers on one tweet, but then he read, instead of reading something I wrote, then he read out something another had written under, who had written ban this horrendous cult. He read.
So now it's your responsibility what other people answer in your.
but of course, when he says this quick to the judge, then he can quickly believe that this was me, and that's what I want. And I've never asked for anything like that. But he can say that, and I'm not there. If they wanted, they could have confronted me with that when I was in a stand, but they don't do that. They wait until I'm gone, and then they say something. But what's funny is that some, no offense, but some random unknown dude somewhere in Scotland or something. It could be a 15-year-old kid who has had his tweet read in Norwegian court. That's kind of funny.
And he were not Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses.
I don't know who it was. Could have been anyone. But I can't control that. There's thousands of answers out there. I have no idea.
I know, of course not, Jan. But isn't it? It's not a surprise for us. The Watchtower typical. They go after the man, not the ball. They always go. It's you has a problem, and
that's what's hard. Witnessing, and I've done it twice now. So for me, I was prepared and I was ready, and it wasn't so hard for me. But for some of the girls, and I'll always say that my job was easy, but some of the girls, or women, I should say, went in there with horrible stories all alone, testifying. That was
Therese, Naomi,
Rakel. And of course, a few that have been asked to not have the name out there.
No.
That was because I don't have like an abuse story, or I was just a grown man wanting to go out, and of course I had my struggles and it was hard, but I don't have this horrible, terrible abuse story. And being from when I was a child, I had a good upbringing in a normal life, but some of them told, and they had to sit there in the courtroom with all these Jehovah's Witnesses right behind them, and several of them had. Yeah. Okay. A few more minutes. That's okay.
Thank you.
Had the elders from their own judicial committee sitting right behind them with their wives and people they knew very well from being a Jehovah's Witness. So I don't know. They did the real heavy lifting.
It was very touching to read her testimony. She was one of them. Was it Teresa? She was also crying. They are so strong. These.
It was really hard, and I remember when I was sitting out there waiting for my turn, and I just heard the crying, and then it was my turn, and it was. But it's done, and we prevailed. And
another strong testimony were the famous Rolf Foruli. And he's a very interesting person because...
It's really interesting.
Yeah, because he still considers himself as a Jehovah's Witnesses. He just don't believe in the governing body. But in a way, it's a very strong testimony he came with.
I think it's beautiful because he adds... We can disagree about all kinds of stuff, but it's beautiful to disagree and still be friends. Mm-hmm. That's what life is. But he adds another piece to the puzzle that we didn't have, so he's really important. And I enjoyed that. We testified on the same day, so I met him in the morning before court started, and he had all these notes, and he had his suit, and he was dressed like he was going into a meeting. And but he's an old man, and he's really lost a lot. It's hard for him. We can kind of laugh and say it's funny, but he's lost a lot of things. All his friends, his wife died, and he didn't even go to the funeral in the Kingdom Hall because he couldn't take it. And it's sad, and he misses his friends and his life, but he still chose to do what he believes is right. And I just wish more people would do like him, even if they believe in the doctrine, that they are able to stand up and speak the truth about what they feel. So I have all kinds of respect for this man, even though I'm totally disagreeing on some things. And we always share, and we write emails to each other and support each other. And he's a really nice guy, and it was really nice to meet him that morning. So
But
I
you spoke
really,
with him before. It was not the first time you met him, was it?
it was the first time I met him in person.
Oh, but you have
Actually,
been
or I
talking.
remember him way back as a Jehovah's Witness, but then I was just one in the crowd, and he was this Superman.
Yeah,
So, but
circuit
we
also.
had a
Yeah.
lot of contact over the last 3, 4, 5 years over emails and texts. And so it was the first time I met him in person. I don't
Interesting.
really meet people much.
No, and you did not want to meet me when I were in Oslo, and I totally understand. It's just teasing you because you
yeah,
were fed up. You were so tired, and you couldn't find the parking lot, and so on. I said, leave it. Leave
there
it.
was a long story to that.
It's
There
okay,
was my daughter and my girlfriend, and
of
everything
course.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, but
it took a
yeah,
lot of and that's why I'm so full of respect for you, what you've done. And I know you're a very humble man, and you also refer to the other witnesses that also deserve a lot of credit for what they're
yes, of
doing.
course,
And you're not getting paid. You have a normal life. You have a
yes,
daytime job and your family.
yeah.
And still, where do you find the power to keep on going on? Why don't you just say,
No,
I throw the towel in, I cannot anymore? Have you been there sometimes? And this
um,
is too much.
the problem for me is that I was asked in an interview yesterday, I think it was, how did you celebrate the victory? And I thought about it, and then I wrote, I never
No,
celebrate. No,
not
I
this.
never celebrate. There's nothing Jehovah's Witness related that makes me happy. Winning a case like this makes me a little less sad. it's, it's kind of sad to say, but I never enjoy any of this, and it never brings me joy. But the alternative to not doing anything would bring me even more misery, because then I wouldn't be able to sleep at night, and I would feel worse. So it's kind of, for me, it's the worst of two evils, because when there is something happening and I don't do anything and I don't say anything, then I get stuck with this thoughts, and I have these written essays that's just in my head trying to get out. And I get stressed and I can't sleep. So for me, I just need to let the stuff that's circulating in my head, I just have to get it out so that I can move on. So for me, it's all this is just damage control for me.
But
It's
Jan,
not about.
are you that kind of person that I do it myself person? Are you having trouble asking for help from other people?
No,
Or
I never ask for help from other people.
no, I think you should. I think you should. If this is going
I
on
don't
to
want people. I
Strasbourg,
don't want people helping me. My, yeah.
and that
I get
might be why you are getting so much full of it. If you like ask others, can you see this? Can you do this? Can you do some research on this? I don't have the time. You have to
I have to do it
delegate.
myself.
Hmm.
I won't ask anyone to do things.
But
I'll
you
never.
should do
And
it.
then
You should do it.
I never. And yeah. I know this. I'm really bad at accepting help and accepting support. I need to do it myself, and then I don't want to bother anyone else.
Please do it, because you deserve a little rest, and you there should be a little group around you helping you, reading some things, pointing out some points, whatever. Yeah, because if this is going on to Strasbourg, this is not the end. It's only 2024. It can continue to
Yeah, but
2027, 28.
what's good now is that we have a win, we have a verdict, we can
Mm.
enjoy the verdict.
Oh, you do enjoy it.
We'll provide links that you can put in your when you put this out. We'll provide a link so everybody can read the verdict,
Mm.
and we can just chill, and we don't have to stress now this summer to think, how can we win the appeal? What can we do? We need more witnesses. We need better witnesses. So we can just relax and just take it as it comes. We can when it gets close, we can discuss a little if there's something we need more focus on, but basically we just need to do the same thing, and this will be an easy win. I'm sure.
You're sure you don't have doubts in your heart.
No. What I had in doubt was because you must remember that it's not just the judge. We have had the Justice Department when they wrote the law. It wasn't a hearing, and then the legal experts looked through the law and considered it up against human rights, the European Court of Human Rights, the Constitution. And then the law was written based on that. And then you had the Statsforvalter, the county governor, looking into all of this over a year, and then they concluded in our behalf, and then it was appealed into the Department for Children and Family that deals with religion, and then there were legal experts there looking into it, and they supported us. And now, when this court case came, then I was a little bit worried because there was only one judge in this court case. Just give me a second. So you're always a little worried because when there's one individual, you can always meet someone that's kind of flawed when it comes to religion or Jehovah's Witnesses. So I was a bit worried if we met like a really conservative judge that's put religion above all, because you meet them like a Massimo Introin kind of guy. So that was kind of worried. But when we get to the next level, then it will be at least 3 or 5 judges. And that makes me totally confident. You'll not find, you might find one judge that's maybe a bit cold-hearted, but when there's 3 or 5 and they have to talk together and find a common, I'm totally confident that this
so
will.
what you're saying is that you were only worried about this court case, but it went on and so on.
I wasn't worried.
But because there was one judge, but you are more secure that they will win the next if they go to the state court, or what to call it?
The courts of appeals, or in Norway we say lagmannsretten, because then it will be a broader panel of judges, 3 or 5. And if it goes to Supreme Court, then there's like, I don't know how many, 7 or 9 or something. And the more I'm secure then, because all these legal experts and all these agencies, they have looked into it and agreed. So the only one disagreeing is basically Watchtower and super conservative Christian people and a few special kinds. So, and they got full support in a newspaper article yesterday. Then a woman who is a professor in law at the university in Oslo, she said this was a clear, obvious verdict, and it will be upheld in Strasbourg without a doubt. So I feel confident. I'm really confident. When I was waiting for the verdict, lots of people told me, "What's the odds here?" And I think my answer when I thought about this was I was 80% sure would win, and then there was 15% chance for some kind of split decision, like not no to the funding, but maybe some kind of yes to the registration, and then 5% for Watchtower. And but yeah,
that's good. If I may say, I were a little bit more in doubt because but I think that's my physical performance from the lawyers, because what I saw when I came into that courtroom, I saw this Anders Rysdal, and he was a real lawyer. Yeah. He was a mean mother beep.
Yeah.
And then I saw these from the state presenting 2 young girls in their 20s, and one of them was pregnant.
Wasn't that beautiful?
And I thought,
I think that's the beautiful part.
Yeah, it was also because they were women, but they were young.
Yeah, it was.
But I thought they don't look that experienced. Why are they presenting the Norwegian state? And they were not that good as Anders Rysdal. I thought that
you should watch what you say now. This will go on the internet. Some people might say that you don't have faith in
just
women.
My physical, their appearance and so on. But then I could hear, as long as the procedure and so on, the last day, yeah, they knew their stuff. They were not
course.
unexperienced lawyers.
Never underestimate women. They
No,
are smarter than some of us might think.
yeah, but also their age. I was thinking about if they were in their 40s or 50s, wow, their appeal would be more. This is very serious. But they were happy, they were nice, they were young, but they were
Yeah,
very sharp. They were
yeah.
very sharp.
For us witnesses, it was perfect because you had this aspect of them being young women against these grumpy old men, but also it made us, especially the female younger witnesses, the women. I think it was good to have people more that we felt more like they were more like us and not just a team of men in suits. Yeah, I
Like
think
in
that
the
was
Watchtower.
important for people like Nomi
Yeah.
and Raquel to have these young women.
Yeah. But I was just sitting here with my hands and rubbing them
Yeah.
because it was such a beautiful sight. You know, the
You know,
Watchtower, it is actually misogynic. It's the
yes, of
women are
course.
not allowed to speak in public and so on, all these rules. And now these elders, and Ben Elder, funny name, actually, no,
Mm.
he had to bow his head and listening to when the young girls were talking, the lawyers. That was just a
It was,
beautiful moment.
but it was really weird to be there and testifying. I remember the morning because I'd done this one time before, so I felt confident. I knew how it was working, and in the morning I was like saying hello to the other witnesses and helping people like this to find their spots. And I was waiting for some of my friends, and I met Furuli, and I was walking in the hall. I was really excited. And I was smiling. Felt really good about it. And then there were all these Jehovah's Witnesses going in, packing, and they were looking at me. They weren't looking at me because you never met any. You could never catch their eye, but at the same time they were like, and I'm so at least two circuit overseers that I remember, and they probably remembered me.
You sent me a photo of them.
Yeah,
I don't think I should public it, but they're
oh,
sitting there, circuit overseers, and they're biting their nails.
you can see
You remember that?
I have lots of pictures, and I've been studying a lot of the
Do you think
expressions.
can I publish that in this video where they're sitting biting their nails? Or? Because it's
It's,
very funny. You
it's
can read.
internet. You can do whatever you want on the internet, can't you? I think
Okay,
it's.
I'll
I
do
don't.
that because it's so
I
funny.
don't.
They're listening
As
there,
far
and
as I know, there's no rules on the internet. That's
okay,
what
if you
I've been
say
told.
so. You're my
But
hero, if you say so. But it
yeah,
was a fun because it really showed that picture of these two
yeah.
overseers. They could listen to all the other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses testimonies and so on, and the young female lawyers, and
Mm.
they
So,
they were clearly nervous about what they
yeah.
heard.
And also they brought their wives, so it's really interesting to study because I have the court case was streamed to another room because the court was full. So in the other room, I had Patrick from Belgium and a few
Yeah, I saw
others,
that. Yeah,
and in there they had a TV screen and there were nobody watching them. So they took pictures of the TV screen, and I got like 50, 60 pictures of every witness. And when I watched it, because it took like serial photos, so you get all this. And I've been watching these expressions behind me when I was talking, and a few of especially the women behind me, you can go through like 50 pictures, and their expression is exactly the same on all of them. So
yeah,
they had this stone face and were totally freezing, and it's like they were just trying to not move anything.
yeah. It's
It's
true.
really interesting because that's not normal. You can't take 50 pictures of a person in a
No,
normal setting and they would look exactly the same on all of them.
yeah, the robots. And
So it's
what is your estimate of how many could sit there listening in audience, or what you call it? 50 people, maybe?
there were four lines, and no, it's more than 50. I think it was 4 lines,
Okay.
wasn't it? And maybe 15 on each. So
But
yeah,
when I was there the last 3 days, I tried to figure out who are the Jehovah's Witnesses here, and you could see it on their dress and so on.
Yeah, of
But
course, they dress like a meeting
so
because they are
out of
Roman.
50, I think 40 of them were Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
And they were there early. So when I came there, I thought I would go down earlier the day. So I came like 5 minutes after the court was open, and then it was almost full already because they had to stand in line to get the front seats. So the two first rows were taken immediately.
But they were instructed, Jan. They were totally instructed. It was not like going to the meeting
they
where
were.
before they started up, they could talk to each other. They were all stone-faced. They didn't say, of course, they said, hello, hello, brother, hello, sister.
And
but
they
then
were
they just,
praying.
I
praying
think they were
all the
praying,
time.
whatever. They were so
Yeah,
quiet.
because
they didn't
we
talk.
had in Vårt Land there was a woman who wrote.
Watland is a newspaper.
She wrote an essay,
Mm.
what you call a letter when readers write a letter, talking about how it felt for her, and she wrote that she was crying and she was praying all the time for Jehovah to stop this and make the court understand.
Yeah.
And she was pretending to be just a regular woman attending, but of course she's the wife of a former district overseer, one of the 3-4 top people in Norway. She didn't tell that. She was just pretending to be a normal.
I
and
think
of course,
all of them were handpicked by
yes, of course,
Watchtower.
they were handpicked. It's not like just the regular Jehovah's Witness was asked to come. There were just top people with their wives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that didn't make any impression for the judge, even though they said, the witnesses said, "Oh, I feel very sorry. I'm so sad about what all these lies from." She didn't say apostate, of course, but former members, and it influences my life, and people are talking my community back home. They were trying, "Oh, it's us. You have to feel sorry for us." But the judge could look through that and say, "No, who actually is it we should feel sorry for?" That's the shunt.
But it's kind of interesting that in the verdict, if you go to page, if you go to page, the last pages are beautiful. We actually should have read everything, but in if you go through to page 28, then he agrees that that this is hard for Jehovah's Witnesses. That there's several points that point in the direction that Jehovah's Witnesses. And it says the properties, the teachings all over the world, and it would have important for them to be registered. And he also writes on page 28 that they have been subject to persecution and discrimination, that it's easy to understand that's why they react strongly. But in the middle of page 28, he says that in the court's view, these are not weighty enough reasons to regard the differential treatment as unreasonable. And then he writes that the practice of exclusion means that children's right to freedom of expression is violated. So he says, and then he writes that even if they feel bad for losing this and they feel hung out to dry, but that's what you get for treating children like this.
But still, he has a point, and I always distinguish Watchtower from the individual Jehovah's Witnesses,
of course,
because we have been there ourselves. We didn't like when people like us now in this age wrote anything bad about our religion. I remember I felt sorry also, and I was very sad when some bad publicity were about Jehovah's Witnesses. So it's very important to distinguish and say, no, we're not going after the individuals. We understand them. We are very empathetic, but we're going after the Watchtower. It's the government.
It's really important what he says there on page 28. He says that the children's right to freedom of expression is violated. And he says this is an inviolable part of religious freedom, which the state must make an effort to protect. Yeah. Refusing grants of registration is a reaction that safeguards the legitimate purposes of the decision.
Yeah.
And it says that it's important that the right to free expression is a reality in the religious communities that are given registration and subsidies. In this demanding case, the state has chosen a solution that is balanced and reasonable.
Yes.
The decisions means that the necessary spotlight has been directed at the practice that is very problematic. It can in itself be a protection mechanism for children who are in a position to become members.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a reason they do it. It's supposed to be bad for Jehovah's Witnesses. That's kind of the whole idea. So you can't say that it's bad for us, because when you get punished for something, that's the point. You're supposed to feel punished when you get punished.
And it's all about, as it's the state, they want to protect the children. And that is the main point of all this. They want to protect them.
And also us adults. There's both of the two things that the state went down on is supported in the verdict. The protection of children, but also the right to leave without punishment. Both of those.
Of course. But I just remember that in the courthouse, they were talking a lot about the children. And they were focusing a lot, especially Anders Rysdal, the 15-year limit and so on. But it was like, for me, the Department of Family and Children and so on, they were focusing a lot on these children, 15 years old or minor. Can you say a little bit about that? Because I was thinking, if we have to be objective as possible, maybe in the Nordic countries, in contrary to United States, where we hear children 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old being baptized, especially in Denmark, it is not normal. I think it's mostly 16, 17 years old in general.
Yeah, but you're still a child.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
It's
You're
pretty
not developed. Yeah.
It's pretty strong. On page 26, he says that children should not be put in a situation where they bind themselves to rules that in practice will cause major obstacles to their right and freedom to change their religion or belief, both as minors and later in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true. That's true. But I just remember that the prosecutor, again, this evil Anders Rysdal, he was focusing a lot about this limit on 15 years old. In his opinion, when you're 15 years old, you're not on the criminal age and so on. You are to be considered more or less like an adult. And you know
but at the same time, you've just hit puberty. You have no idea. Most queer people don't even know that they are queer, maybe when they are 15. True. So how can they promise to not be queer for the rest of their life? How can they make such a promise? It's still not possible. And also, one more thing from the verdict. I'm sorry for the 30 minutes I gave you are...
But it's up to you. It's
I'm
up to you.
Good at this. But in the verdict, this is a really important thing that he says in the middle of page 26, he says, here it must be emphasized that it is reasonable to expect that some young people in the transition of becoming adults, as part of developing their own identity, will break rules that provide grounds for exclusion, such as by having a sexual relationship with a lover or by distancing yourself from a view of life or belief that you have come to doubt. So this is to be expected, but inside the Jehovah's Witnesses, those that are not able to not have sex or not able to keep their faith, they are marked as bad individuals and useless human beings. But in this verdict, he says that it's perfectly normal. It is to be expected that young people do stuff like this, and that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So,
good points.
Yeah.
Good points. And it's beautiful to see a judge, an outside secular person, and going through these thousands and thousands of papers, and his conclusion is like that. It's so clear. It's so good. Okay, my friend, one last question, and this I'm not awake in the night. I'm not thinking about all the time, but a big question is, beside that they can lose their charity and so on in Norway and maybe also in Denmark, we are fighting for the same. We are looking over your shoulder. Do you think an effect also can be that the governing body might change their doctrine or politics on shunning and disfellowshipping? I mean, they find new light all the time, and they can see it's a business. Okay, this is not good. We are losing charity and so on. So they might, because of these trials, get rid of that rule?
Yeah, at some point this will happen, and it's kind of already happening in one way in Norway, because throughout this case and in media, they have been saying over and over again that it's up to each individual to decide if you want to shun or not. They told that, and that they also said that the elders they don't bother checking, and it's not something they care about. It's up to each individual. And if you say that enough times, then it becomes like this.
Yeah, I know, but they have not said it or wrote it on jw.org.
It hasn't. It's just in Norway, but stuff like this tend to spread because internet is internet, and people can find these quotes and use them. And if they are told many times enough that you can decide yourself if you want to stay in touch with your dyslexic child, then people will start doing that. They will start deciding for themselves. And if you let people decide for themselves, then after a while, shunning is gone, because most people don't really want to do it.
I just want them to say it on JW Broadcasting, that now they have found new light and they're changing the policy. Now you can have a beard.
I don't think they will. Yeah, because that's easy for them. But look at what they did to blood. Then they never admitted that anything was wrong, but slowly they slipped in all these fractions and kind of, at first it was just minor fractions, and then it became larger fractions, but it doesn't mean that they ever admitted anything was wrong. And I think that's what's going to happen with shunning. There's so many doctrines in Watchtower history that they have never said that they are not valid anymore. They just stopped talking about them. And after a while, like the 7,000 years or the 6,000 years, that every day in the creation is 7,000 years. Most of this generation, they haven't even heard about it. So it's been forgotten, but they have never admitted that we don't believe it anymore. There's lots of stuff like that, or the thing that animals didn't eat meat before the flood. It's not written really. They haven't really said anything about it for like 30, 40, 50 years, but they haven't admitted that it was wrong either. And I think that might happen to shunning, that they stop this slowly. They will stop enforcing it. They will stop making material about it, stop writing about it, and then people will slowly just forget it was ever it ever was a thing.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen, but that will take time. In 10, 20, 25 years, it will be like 1975 that people hardly remember, or they will say, nah, there were in the old days there were some people shunning, but it wasn't something the Watchtower wanted us to do. It was just some people doing it.
I hear you, brother. I hear you, bro. but in this case, I think no, it's not that easy for them just to let it flow. They need to at least write to the elders and make an update on the elders book, because it's clearly
they could do that. They could, but in that case, they won't say that they were wrong. They will just remove. We'll slowly see that for every edition of the elders book, they will have removed some of the sections about it, especially about the thing about those disassociation, those leaving by themselves. My expression is, in a few years there won't be a word about that in the elders manual. It will just
I think you're right.
That's my prediction, but I'm just guessing. But I think that's the way it will. In 50 years, there won't be a shunning but
we can't wait 50 years.
No, I can't. So it is what it is, and we just have to live our lives. We can't go around waiting for it. It's like Armageddon. It comes when it comes, and if it doesn't come, then we just have a good life.
And we are having the best life ever.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's good.
Yes. Within an hour?
It was 2.5 hours. 2 egg clocks. Yeah. But thank you very much, Jan. And I'm thanking you not for only in Norway and Denmark, but all over the world. There are so many people who owes you a lot. This is incredible what happened. So thank you.
Always remember that it wasn't just me. I'm always saying that. But some of the most heavy burdens was not mine.
No.
You should always remember that. And this process has never been about just a few persons who have been.
You are a humble man, and you are right also. Give
Yeah,
credit
but
to,
you've seen, because I know you've been let into the group, one of the Facebook groups, and you can see that there's lots of brave people.
It's true. Yeah, and credit to them also.
I always say this, and people, we don't want to follow leaders or anything like that.
No, but you are my leader now. I want to be one of Jan's witnesses.
Yeah. No. Okay.
No, Jan.
Yeah.
No Janolites.
Yeah.
But Jan, what a thrill it has been. I was happy to talk with you, and I hope to see you in Copenhagen, where we can actually go out and have a good time.
Yeah, I'm going to Aarhus in Easter, actually, with my girlfriend. But
You're going to what?
The Aarhus, the best
Aarhus.
city in Denmark.
That's in the
What do you say in Danish?
We say Aarhus. 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 Oh,
yeah.
You know, Danish is not a language; it's a throat disease.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll go all the way to Aarhus. It's only 3 hours drive.
My daughter is going to Copenhagen actually at the same time with her boyfriend. So we love Denmark.
Of course you do. I love Norway, especially. I love the Norwegian court system. So we have to meet in real life. We cannot go on like this. But thank you again for being on the show, and good luck forward.
Keeping me. Great.
Bye. Bye.